Okay, let's just run through a fast summary of most of the key provisions that are included in this new rule and how we think it would affect most, if not all, of our customers and most, if not all, of their use cases. So, first and foremost, mandatory text blocking. Basically, any mobile carrier now is obligated to block text messages that are being originated from any number that's been flagged by the FCC for something fraudulent or illegal. This has honestly been effective since March of 2024, but we've adopted a 12-month limited waiver, so they've had time to basically set up a new system for the reassigned numbers database, right? And so this is basically going to let a carrier or a software vendor or anyone who's trying to facilitate messaging, or even the business that's doing the messaging, to be able to look at a database that is in real time updated on who basically should not be allowed to send messages. And so that took some time for them, and that's why there was a little bit of a delay in it being included and effective, right? And so long story short, the R&D database is now good to go, and so we need to be compliant and mandatory block any text messages from being sent on our systems if we know it's a phone number that's been used for spam or violating any rules in the past. Second one, is the DNC registry for text messages. This is a massive one, and it's because there was a loophole that made it so you could basically text people who were on the national DNC, and that was really to protect consumers from calling. And that was before text messages really existed, right? And so this is a loophole that they're finally closing. You can't take a consumer totally cold, get their phone number from like the phone book or something, and then text them and be totally okay to do it now. That's no longer allowed, right? So text messaging is now included in DNC registry regulations. Next one, closing the lead generation loophole. Now this is one that is probably the biggest problem for most of Pitchit's customers, because it's going to change everything that you have to do to basically capture one-to-one consent, and it needs to be very specific, okay? And so if you want to contact a consumer, you can't just have an ambiguous blanket statement that says we can contact you for anything on any channel and sell your data to affiliates, right? That can no longer be included inside of your form fill. You need to have very explicit language around who you are opting this person into, to who you're going to sell their data to, basically. So if you're going to use this contact information to communicate with them via voice, text, email, and it will be for purposes of selling them something, and if you're going to sell it to company X, Y, and Z, that all needs to now be included in the disclosures as of January 27, basically giving you a clear deadline on when you have to get this completed and adjusted on your site. And that's because they are fully understanding, the FCC is, that there's entire funnels and consent processes that now need to be changed. A great example, if you go to our website, we've got a good template here. So at the bottom of any form fill, this is not just for your website, but basically whoever's getting the lead that you're buying or scraping or taking needs to say something like, it needs to be unchecked and they need to check it. And it needs to say, by checking this box and selecting this button, I'm providing my signature, expressly consenting to be contacted by, company name, the specific company that's going to call them. Now, if you sell leads, you can't just say from your company. You need to then list off all the companies that you would sell that lead to. Otherwise, those companies cannot call this person at the number provided regarding its products. So this is the use case, regarding its products or marketing for informational purposes or for customer service. The next part is what channels you're going to use. So via live, pre-recorded telephone call, SMS, WhatsApp, or email message. And live meaning that a human's going to be on the phone, pre-recorded basically meaning like a voicemail drop, an AI generated call, any kind of robo dial. And then at the bottom, you understand that your telephone company can charge you for being contacted. You're not required to sign this document as a condition to purchase the good or service of Pitchit, and that you can revoke this consent at any time by saying stop or clicking unsubscribe links. This is a bit of a pain, but the reality is that this was all designed to protect consumers and businesses from being contacted for reasons that they didn't originally want to be contacted for when filling out this form. So that's a great template. You guys can always pull from our templates if you want to include it on your site, but this effectively closes the lead gen loophole. If you're buying leads or getting leads from anywhere else, we'll get into this later. Specific use cases will be addressed in later in later chapters of this course. Next one, encouraging opt-in for email to text services. So this is basically trying to combat fraudulent texts that were originating from email addresses. The FCC encourages mobile providers to make email to text services opt-in only. And so I actually saw this on LinkedIn the other day. It was some AI company who thought it was cool that they were texting someone by basically emailing them, and that basically an iPhone made it so you could text someone via an email. And they thought this was a really cool loophole. And I was pretty quick to point out that this is explicitly being mentioned as a new rule that's no longer allowed. And so, I hope that person enjoys their next 3 weeks of doing this in a compliant way, because as of January 27, 2025, 3 weeks from now, they're not going to be allowed to do it anymore. So they better make as much money as they can selling this service, because 3 weeks from now, their business will be shut down if it relies on email to text services. Next one, so the reassigned numbers database access. So we talked a little bit about this in the DNC. For text messages, they were we talked about it here in the mandatory text blocking. It was talking about reassigned numbers database. This is just a little bit more language around that. So basically, avoiding wrongful blocking of lawful text messages is a fear. Nobody wants to block people who should actually be allowed to send messages. And so just like there's a law on allowing you to find out who is not allowed to send messages, they also wanted to make the RND accessible in real time to make sure that numbers aren't being blocked falsely, right? So they don't want false positives happening and making so legitimate companies can't send messages, right? And so these are basically the new rules. How they get applied in specific use cases is still up to interpretation, but the following chapters of this course are going to address all of the most common use cases that these new rules will directly affect in our professional opinion. Thanks.